All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're breaking down a really fascinating and, let's be honest, kind of jarring white paper called The Digital Rustbelt. It paints a picture of a massive shift happening in tech because of AI, but more importantly, it gives us a concrete survival guide for what to do about it.
So, let's start with this quote. It's from the paper's author, and it's what his father told him way back in 1994. Now, you gotta understand, this wasn't just some friendly career advice. This was a survival plan. This was right in the middle of the NAFTA era, and he was watching his friends, skilled, hardworking tradespeople losing their jobs like overnight. Manufacturing was being turned upside down, and his dad knew a completely new skill was needed just to stay in the game.
In that moment, that story from the 90s, well, that's the key to understanding exactly what's going on today. The paper's big argument is that we're living through a historical echo, another one of those huge economic disruptions that feels eerily familiar.
And the parallel is, wow, it's incredibly clear when you lay it out like this. Back in the 90s, the trigger was NAFTA. It commoditized physical labor, and the result was the Rust Belt. Fast forward to today, the trigger is generative AI, and it's doing the exact same thing to cognitive labor. You know, the baseline coding, the documentation, all those junior-level tasks, and the result? The digital Rust Belt.
This right here is the core thesis of the entire paper, and it's not just a catchy slogan. The point is that this is a direct structural comparison. See, AI isn't getting rid of tech jobs, just like NAFTA didn't get rid of all manufacturing. What it is doing is getting rid of the premium price we used to pay for the routine parts of that work.
So here's the bottom line. The digital Rust Belt is all about the hollowing out of the tech middle class. Your mid-level developers, your consultants, they're facing the same economic squeeze that factory workers did 30 years ago. And it's not because they aren't skilled. It's because the economic value of what they produce has been fundamentally changed by technology.
Okay, so let's shift from the big idea to what's happening on the ground. Because this isn't some 10-year forecast. The paper shows how this is already causing a total meltdown in the tech consulting world as we speak. For decades, the business model for big consulting was something called body shopping. You just sell headcount. Oh, you need an app built? Here's an army of 50 developers. Well, that model is completely collapsing. And why? Because a small internal team, armed with the right AI tools, can now do the work of that 50-person army, but faster and way, way cheaper. And this has kicked off what the paper calls the SI death spiral. It's a vicious cycle. It starts when clients go, hey, we want smaller, more focused projects. So to cut costs, the consulting firm lays off its expensive senior people. But that talent doesn't just vanish. Nope. They go independent, call up their old clients, and offer to do the same work for half the price. The firm's revenue tanks, which leads to more layoffs, and the whole thing just spirals down.
So what's left after the dust settles? Well, the old infantry model is just gone. The new model is all about small, elite A-teams. You either have janitors, these are the crisis response teams you call when everything is on fire and needs to be fixed yesterday, or you have commandos, the super strategic teams you bring in for the most complex, game-changing projects. That middle ground of just doing routine work, it's vanishing.
Now, I know this all sounds pretty bleak, but here's the pivot. The paper argues that all this disruption is actually forging a new path forward. It's forcing a massive shift away from selling hours to selling something way more valuable. Outcomes.
And to really get this new economy, you have to put yourself in an executive's shoes for a second. Imagine this. Your board is breathing down your neck, demanding you find massive savings using AI. At the same time, your actual teams are totally burned out and overwhelmed. You are stuck in a vice. It's an impossible situation.
And here is the big reframe. For that executive, AI isn't a threat to their people. It's the only thing that can save their own career. It is the only tool that can make their current team productive enough to hit those crazy targets from the board without everyone quitting. So for them, AI is a career saver, and that's the problem that needs solving. So how do you sell in this new world? You stop selling tech, and you start selling three things. First, education. You teach a client exactly how AI can solve their specific business problem. Second, strategy. You help them redesign their entire workflow to actually capture that AI value. And third, and this is the big one, outcomes. You guarantee a measurable result, like a 20% cost reduction, and you tie your paycheck to it.
Which brings us to the most critical part of this whole explainer, the actionable stuff, the survival guide. This is all about how you, as an individual, can thrive, not just survive in this new world. So, what's the plan?
right? What do you do when the skills that used to be your bread and butter are suddenly being commoditized by a machine?
Okay, first, a huge warning. The old playbook is dead. You know, the one where you just keep adding skills, learn another coding language, get another certification. That is a treadmill to nowhere. You simply cannot outlearn a machine that can learn every programming language in an afternoon. Competing on breadth of technical skill is a race you are guaranteed to lose.
Instead, the paper says we're now living in a two-skill economy. In this new world, there are really only two kinds of roles that are going to command a real premium. Your survival and your success depends on mastering one of them. Or, even better, both.
So what are they? Role number one is the AI orchestrator. This person isn't writing lines of code all day. They're designing and building systems of AI agents to get work done. They think in workflows and business outcomes. That's the new technical premium. Role number two is the network farmer. This person's value has almost nothing to do with technology. It's all about cultivating deep, trust-based human relationships. They sell access, insight, and trust. That's the human premium that can't be automated away.
But here's the secret. The ultimate goal isn't just to pick one, it's to synthesize them, to become both. The person who can use the trust from their network to find the right problem to solve, and then has the skills to orchestrate a system of people and AIs to actually solve it, that person is invaluable.
And this final quote from the paper just sums the whole thing up perfectly. The future doesn't belong to the best coder. It belongs to the person who can build the best system, a system of people and machines to solve problems that actually matter.
So, the main thing to remember is this. This isn't just another down cycle in the tech industry. This is a permanent, structural transformation, just like the one that created the first Rustbelt. It's really happening. So that leaves all of us with a really big question. Now that you can see the shift, how are you going to start building for what comes next?